And people don't like, this is also an advantage of living
That's
alone.
true.
Like, don't think that it's gonna destroy your relationship with your family. Maybe it can even make it stronger. So just want to put this out there.
That's a very, very good point. I do think by being apart, sometimes we get closer, generally, with so many people. And because I think with our parents, we kind of like have been living with them all our lives. So they know every little details
Yeah.
about your life, and you know everything about their life. And I just feel this is very specific to Morocco because I think it's a tendency that people are not emotional and they don't go into deep conversations and they
Yeah.
don't have one-to-one
Conversation. Yeah.
meetings and conversations and plans. So in Morocco, I feel like I know that we do that in the house is that we would, if we go out, then we'd go out as a group. You know what I mean? We'd all go to lunch. We'll all go to get a coffee. We'll
yeah.
all go to the park. I'm saying all go to the
Yeah,
beach.
and then like the adults would be talking to each
Yeah,
other.
and
I'm,
like
I'm calling them the adults, even though I'm an adult, but you know what I mean?
it's
Like you'd be
still,
talking to your cousin, but you won't be talking to your dad, you know?
or like your uncle.
Yeah.
Usually it will always be different groups always together having the same conversations. And it's really rare where we would sit down and have one-to-one conversation with one person in the family so we can grow stronger. And this is really funny because I had this little same conversation with a French friend of mine who has two kids, right? And they're about like 10 or something. And she would consciously, so she's French, right? She would consciously plan one-to-one dates with her boys, but like separately. And they're like 2 years apart. And she would consciously make sure that she'd spend quality time with one of them, like on a lunch, or they'll go to a theater together, do a movies together, have dinner together, and the other one would go with his dad. And they would exchange
switch,
and they
yeah.
make plans.
That's cute.
It's so healthy. I was like, this is so freaking amazing. Like, your kids are gonna grow up with like the best mental health I've ever seen, because she was like, it's so important for me. It gives them a chance to talk to me and be really open and have deep conversations. And I feel like this is something we don't have
I
in like
think,
a lot of
yeah,
Arab
the family
countries.
structure in my case, I don't know if it's like a general thing, but it was like when you have a sibling, especially. I think
course.
maybe it's different maybe when you're
If
an
you're
only
like
child. But you have a
an only child.
sibling, I think it's just like the parent expects you to just talk to the sibling and they talk to each other. Like I
Yeah.
remember like when we were in the car, for example, like I would like be fighting in the back with my brother and my parents would be talking about something else completely like in the front. And it was just like always like this. So that's why I'm saying like I have conversations with my parents, but I feel like I had all the big conversations with my parents when I moved. Because, yeah, like when I was a kid, it's like they knew me, of course, but they knew like surface level me.
But also, like, this is a good transition to talk about a bit how moving out of your parents' house, of course, not necessarily abroad. I know Lina and I say abroad a lot, but by that I mean just moving out of your parents' house, even though you're still in the same country and you go to, you know, get an apartment and in another city or the same city. But how do you think moving out of your parents' house kind of affected your personality?
That's like hard to quantify, but for me, I think honestly I've always been more on the independent side, but I think I've gained in confidence in myself and
That's
how
interesting.
like not confidence you would notice, but like trusting myself, like knowing that I can do things on my own. I can survive things on my own. I can like this, I don't think I would have had it if I still lived with my parents. And just like honestly, knowing that I've succeeded by my own merits, like sure my parents helped by paying my rent, but I mean like in like my job or anything, I feel like if I stayed in Morocco, maybe there would be some kind of like, oh, like your dad knows this guy, or I mean, I don't know if it would have I don't know if my dad would have found me a job. I don't think so. But
Yeah.
like, you know, there's this sense of like like it's a stronger community, which is good. Like community helps you get places. And that's something you miss when you're abroad, that's for sure. But also you can derive a sense of pride from it, because you're like, I succeeded on my own. I got this job on my own. I didn't know any person here. Especially when you're in a foreign country and you're like, I have no one to fall back on. I have no one that can like save me if I fail. And it makes you so proud of your achievements, because you realize that every little achievement you made was yours and yours alone, in a way. I mean, it's never yours alone. But like, I think, yeah, this is what I gained, like a certain assurance in myself and how I can make shit happen. I don't think I would have had that if I stayed with my parents. And I think also, yeah, I'm like, I have a stronger personality now. I'm like more outspoken. I think when I was living with my parents, I was more, you know, like I was a people pleaser. I'm still a little bit, but like it was intense. Yeah, but it was like intense with when I was living with my parents, because I had like that type of relationship where you like always want to please them and always want to do things they want you to do. And now I'm like, I stand my ground. I'm like, no, I want this instead. And yeah, like honestly, just making decisions. Also, I know my main traits of a character is being indecisive, but like when I was with my parents, it was even worse. I think because I was always used to maybe my dad saying, oh, let's do this. Like, even if you don't want to do that thing or you want to do something else, that like I just shut down my decision making process growing up. That like you don't even learn to make decisions for yourself. I remember like even buying clothes when I was a kid, like my parents would like decide or something. And I feel like this is not, I mean, that individuality is not super encouraged in Morocco, maybe even other Arab countries. Like you always, even like buying clothes, you go out as a family. Buying things for your room is not like a thing. Like when you see like movies with people like putting posters in their room and stuff like that, like that wasn't a thing, because like the apartment was a common like a common space.
Your room
like
is not your room.
Your room still has to look nice to your parents.
Exactly.
So yeah, so, all of that, I feel like you gain individuality. I mean, you always have individuality, but like affirming that individuality.
Yeah. And I just want to jump on that because I think it's so important to just talk about it. And you said it really perfectly as individuality. It's for me, just to add to it, is you learn about yourself. You learn what you like and what you don't like.
Exactly.
Once you literally just move over your parents' house, because when you're in there, everything that happens is your parents' choices and your parents' personality and your parents' taste. It's their taste in like fashion, as you said, home decor, food. What you eat is not your decision. Usually you do, as you grew up, you kind of make a choice, but there's an outspoken and not spoken rule, which is my house, my rules.
Yeah.
And it's as simple as that. And it's human, it's normal. For example, me, if somebody comes to my house now, I'd be like, we're doing takeout today. It's my house, I'm not cooking.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. It's normal. So when you live in your parents' house, you kind of just obey by their rules and you obey by their choices. And so your personality is shut down, and you said that. I've lived that true. I think you develop an opinion and you develop a personality still, because you go to school, you meet other people, you go out of your house, but you watch YouTube, you watch movies and stuff, and you're so obviously your personality is developing. It's just that you don't use it.
Yeah, that's why I say affirming your individuality, because you have it.
You have
just
it.
like affirming it.
It's just
It was not like a skill that I had before, let's say.
And I feel like you also mature, and I personally think one of the things that kind of I don't know if it's changed, but I do feel like people mature generally with age, right? It's just an effect of time. When you move out of your parents' house, you mature quickly. You have to. You have to make your, just the fact that you have to, and I talked about that earlier, it's just that I didn't emphasize it. Just the fact that you have to make your own financial decisions and you have to do administrative paperwork. Trust me, that's the shittiest thing on earth, is to do your paperwork. You have to go to administrations. Your dad is not going to do it for you. Your mom's not going to do it for you. Your aunt that works in like Muqata is not going to do it for you. Like, you know what I mean? You have to go and do your paperwork in whatever administration yourself. You have to pay your taxes. You have to do them on time. Otherwise, you get a fine. If you have a car, you have to take it to the garage on yourself. You fail when you're alone. You have to. You fail. It's automatic. Do you know the amount of times that, let's say I had to pay something extra? I literally moved to my apartment, and you remember this, Lina. I bought a fridge, remember? And I bought a washing machine from a lady, and it was a complete scam. I lost all my money, and I had to literally throw them in the garbage. And so I threw my money with them, and I had to buy another one. And that's on me. But
Same. My first week in Paris, I actually emptied my whole account because I got locked out of my apartment, and I called like locksmith, and he just scammed me. And it was
100%,
like
you
I
get
had to
scammed.
pay him.
Yeah.
And I had no money left when I paid him. Oh my god.
Yeah, me too. Like, I had to open a bank account. You have to get a phone service. You have to, sign your paper lease and things like that. And you have to do it on your own. Nobody's going to be there to help you. And you will fail. You will get scammed. And that's how you're going to learn and mature really quickly. And I feel like it's part of the process. And if you know it's part of the process, then you can cope with moving out easier. I mean, it is hard, and you will have so many issues in your life. For example, my apartment was flooded a couple of days ago because it rained so much. Literally, my bathroom was a swimming pool. And it flooded, and I was like in a depressive era, and I was like, why is this happening to me? And trust me, you will have these things throughout literally the day you step out of your parents' house. You're gonna start having issues, and that's just part of the process. You will cry it out. It's gonna be depressive, but I think one of the ways to cope is to acknowledge that you will have to go through a lot of failures, a lot of scams, and a lot of things to become independent and mature and care for yourself. And I feel like this is one of the best ways to cope. I don't know if you talked about another best way to cope, which was stay in touch with your parents and have that moral compass. Either your parents, and I feel either your friends. I think if you have like really close friends and siblings, that's gonna help you stay in touch with reality. That's also super helpful. And I think also like to have a good support system and just like be in the same shit together. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I think it's very important to have friends you can count on, and I think people underestimate how much. I mean, of course they know, everyone knows like your friends can help you, but I mean like you need to put in efforts into these friendships. Like when someone is like moving, go help them. When someone, like all of those hard stuff that are annoying, like you need to do them because these people have to be there also for you when you were going through that stuff. Like I just remember when I was coming back from my exchange and I had like 4 suitcases and I was just like struggling on my own in the airport and I broke my leg, and I just like had 2 friends come carry my suitcases with me from the airport. And like you need friends like that who will come help you when you need it and like drop stuff to come help you and treat you like family. Like
100%.
this is what you should aim for, instead of like, because I know another person in my circle. We became close recently, and she was just telling me like her whole college experience, like she didn't get any friends like this because she like focused on having those friends you party with, and like just she always saw them only in party settings, and they were never like there for each other fully. So when she went through a bad phase, when she needed help with some stuff, it's like these people were not there for her, and every time she's disappointed, and I'm like, how are you spending time with these people? Like, what are your, like, how do you hang out? Like please look for friends that are like quality friends.
Yeah.
Like, you need different types of friends for different type of things, but like that's the thing you should focus on the most. Like, who are the people that I could see myself being there for, and that I could see them being there for me.
Yeah, I agree on that. And honestly, I have to say it straight away. When you're alone and you move out of your parents' house, you're still gonna get sick. And I know
Yeah.
that's one of the, I don't know about you, but I think this is one of the moments when it's the hardest.
Yeah, it hits you that
It
you're
hits
alone.
you that you're alone, because even though you have friends and things like that, you're still alone. Nobody's in the same apartment unless you're like living in with somebody else, which is really cool. But it still is one of the hardest times, and I think that having a support system, like friends in the same city as you, or like even if your parents are in the same city as you, that's the best case scenario. But those people are going to become your family once you move out of your parents' house. You will create another family that's going to be there for you, in all situations. And I
Yeah.
know for sure that whenever I'm stuck in a really tough situation, I would call first my friends,
Yeah, same.
and I wouldn't tell my parents. Literally,
Depends
like
on which situation, but
90% of
yeah,
the time, you know?
for me too, but it's just because I don't want to worry them.
That's
I
what I mean.
remember I remember one, I mean, you know the story, but maybe I broke my leg in a foreign country. I got into an accident in a foreign country, and I was on my own, like solo traveling. I mean, I was in Korea, and I was in a bus, and I was gonna go out of the bus, and then the door shut down on one of my legs, and my body
Oh
was
my God.
outside, and I was solo traveling there, and I was just like, what the fuck? Who do I call? Like, in the ambulance, I couldn't even speak to the doctor, because I mean, it was not the doctor. The doctor spoke English, but like the people in the ambulance, I don't know
Yeah.
how you call them, emergency people,
The,
like they
the
did not
emergency
speak.
staff, yeah.
Yeah, they did not speak English, and I was just like, how am I gonna communicate what I'm feeling? And
Google
then the
Translate.
police showed up so I could like give a statement about the bus driver, and they like, I didn't know what to say, and it was just like such a funny feeling. And when I went to the hospital, I started like calling. I had some friends there in Korea, like, and they just like started coming. Like, it was like a whole group of people that came to the hospital, and like as soon as I saw them, it's like all of my anxiety was gone. They were there to translate. They were there to help. They were there just to like laugh with me while I was like sitting waiting for my results, and it was just so amazing that I forgot to call my parents, even to tell them that I had an accident, because I was like, I do not want to deal with their worry right now. Like, let me, I just stopped being anxious, so I don't want to like
Yeah,
jinx it by calling my parents.
I get that.
And like, I spent the whole day like on my own, and then when I came back at night, like to sleep in my hotel and stuff, I was again alone. And I just like felt a sense of achievement, because I was like, this is the worst thing that can happen to you, having an accident in a foreign country on your own, and it still like felt okay. Still, I had friends that showed up to the hospital, so that was great. But even if I was fully alone, I think I would have, felt okay. And ever since that moment, like, nothing scares me. I'm like,
Yeah.
anything, I mean, being sick on your own is
Yeah,
fine. Everything
once
is
you,
fine.
yeah, I feel like
Like,
once you overcome, that's why I think it's so important to, when you move out of your parents' house, you keep in mind that you will go into a lot of things that are not great. You're gonna get in trouble, you might, be sick, you gonna get scammed, it's gonna be hard, you're gonna cry yourself to sleep. So it is really hard, and I do feel like it gets lonely, and it's so important to have a support system that's outside of your family, because sometimes, and you said it perfectly, is that parents worry, and especially once you move out of the house, is that they're constantly worry about you regardless of your relationship, they will worry about you, even though they don't tell you. Because I know a lot of Arab parents, they're not gonna call
Tell
you
you,
every
yeah.
day to say, hi, we worry about you. They won't.
Yeah,
They
but
won't always tell you, but you're in their mind constantly. And I know for sure that I don't like to worry them. For example, I got COVID back in 2020. I was literally on the floor for a week. I had like a terrible case of COVID. It was like in 2020. It was okay. I'm still alive. But like, it's like literally
it's like, I'm so sorry because I
less
felt
of a
like I
drama
wasn't.
than your accident. But I was in a sick leave for a week,
Yeah.
and I was alone in my studio apartment,
Yeah.
and it was COVID, so nobody could come visit me because it was locked down. So I couldn't even have people come check up on me. It was terrible. And so I didn't tell my parents forever. I told them literally like 7 months or 8 months after, when I went back to Morocco. And once they were talking to me about something, I was like, oh yeah, well, I got COVID. It's
Yeah.
fine if I get it again. And they were like, oh my God, why didn't you tell us? But it's just my way of coping is knowing that my parents think that I'm okay, because I know that I'm resilient enough
Yeah.
to handle everything on my own. And that's one of the perks of like, the experience that you get and the
Yeah,
confidence.
so that's what I wanted to say. Like, with those two stories, it's not just about having a circle of friends, it's also that confidence in yourself. And that's something that, like, even if, I mean, it's not just having friends, but if you're convinced you're resilient, you can go through anything. And it's like that one is, I would put it even on top of like
Yeah. Yeah,
having a support system, because
Yeah.
like that, like which is what we said earlier about like what we love the most, like what we gain the most about living alone, is that like I'm resilient enough and trusting that you're resilient enough.
1,000%. Amen. I just want to like go into a couple of last thing is, this is a yes or no answer.
Okay.
Are you happier now that you moved out of your parents' house?
Yes.
Do you regret moving out of your parents'
No.
house? I just want to like go to two last questions on this conversation. I know that those are the hardest, so I wanted to like leave them at the end.
Okay.
Do you feel guilty that you moved out of your parents' house?
I don't feel guilty, but I do feel guilty sometimes when I'm experiencing like something amazing, like that I wouldn't have had the chance to do if I stayed with them or if I stayed in Morocco. Like, I think I've had a lot of opportunities that my parents never had. And when I was, I don't know, like somewhere really far, I remember like, yeah, I went to China and just like walking and seeing like that whole thing. And I called my parents and they were like so amazed, and they were just telling me like, we'll never achieve that. And it makes you feel guilty because you're like, maybe my lifestyle and everything I'm going towards, because I think I've attained maybe a better lifestyle than my parents, and that like makes you feel guilty because you're like, they should be experiencing this too, they should be living as well as me, they should be uh, treating themselves as much as me. And my parents live very well, by the way. I'm not saying anything, but like, they still have a hard time treating themselves because they were always like in that mindset of like everything for our kids, everything for our kids. So when we left, they still haven't like snapped out fully from that and like treated themselves. And so when I have fun, when I'm doing the most, when I'm traveling, when I'm buying myself things, when I'm like going for coffee and dinner and lunch and whatever, and I'm just like, when I tell them all these things, it's like, it's so foreign to them to enjoy your life this much. Not enjoy your life this much, but like do this many activities, like be, and like, that's where I feel guilt.
Why are you always on a holiday?
Yeah, like I'm like, that's where I feel guilt, because I'm like, I wish my parents could experience this too. I wish my parents could, have all this, like these chances that I'm having and see the world as much as I did. And so yeah, like now I'm trying to make them travel with me and like give them like give them some trips and stuff like that. And like I'm trying to do all this to like make them happy too.
Mm.
But yeah, like every time I was experiencing those like wow moments of, I mean, like yeah, I went really far, and yeah, I've been to great places that my parents have never been to, and you're like, wow, like I feel guilty that they're not experiencing this too,
Mm.
you know?
Yeah,
Mm.
I do know, and
Mm.
I relate to that like a
Mm.
1000%. And I feel like we do most of the time feel guilty because we do have a great relationship with our parents, and we're kind of like aware of the sacrifices that they've made.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if everybody's the same. I don't know if
Mm.
everyone is really conscious. I think when you move out of your parents' house, it takes you so many years or so many months or whatever
Mm-hmm.
to realize that
Mm-hmm.
they've done so much for you
Mm.
to be where you are.
Mm.
Because it's kind of like the conclusion of everything we said is
Yeah.
that you know, and sometimes, you know, when you move out, you're kind of sucked into so much happening, right?
Mm.
You're just running, you want to graduate, you want to get a job, you want to do this and this and
Mm.
this. And so you kind of like running against the clock.
Mm.
And I feel like we all sometimes have this one moment when
Mm.
we realize how much we've come.
Mm.
And once we realize that we've
Mm.
done so much, we've grown so much,
Mm.
and that happens to us, I think, the first times we go back home.
Mm.
That's when you realize
Yeah.
how different you are
Mm.
and how different your life is from your
Mm.
old friends.
And how
How
and you're not used anymore to
and you're
people
not
telling you what to do.
right. You're not used to so many things, and
You
I
get
feel
angry faster.
you get angry faster. That's true. You
Yeah.
get irritated
Yeah.
faster when you go back, because I feel like once we all go back to our parents' house at a certain point,
Mm.
at first it's nice, you're like in the
Mm.
longing, in the
Mm.
nostalgia, and it feels nice, right?
Mm.
But then at certain points, once
Mm.
you live alone for you know, a long period, and you go back and you have this like moment that hits you that you've changed,
Mm.
or like you said, you go through something, wow, like you get an amazing raise, or you get like an amazing check, and like
Mm.
now you're working, or you
Mm.
get like an amazing degree, or
Mm.
you're in this crazy trip or whatever,
Mm.
and you realize, or something happens back home, for example,
Mm.
sometimes that happens, you know,
Mm.
something happens that's not great, but it doesn't affect you because you're not there.
Mm.
You realize how far you've come, how
Mm.
much your parents have given
Mm.
to make you happy,
Mm.
to give you a better education,
Mm. Mm.
to give you a more comfortable life in a way.
Mm.
And once that it hits us, we feel guilty. I
Mm.
feel we
Yeah.
feel guilty because we're like,
Mm.
damn, like these people have given so much
Mm.
for us, and then we start, you know, thinking in a process of giving
Mm.
back.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
we're like, how can I
Mm.
give back? And I feel like not everybody gets there in
Mm.
the
And I
same
think I wouldn't
time.
have gotten there that fast if I was living with them.
For sure.
Yeah.
That's what I was
Like,
gonna say,
yeah.
is that the fact that we do
Mm.
leave the
Mm.
house is when you realize
Mm.
how valuable your parents are,
Mm.
is when you are far.
Mm.
Like your parents, your
Mm.
siblings, how the little things,
Mm.
just literally like having
Mm.
somebody cook a meal for you.
Mm.
Like
There's
you
so
have,
much
oh
love
my
in this.
God, have somebody like literally just care for you and come to see you every other day,
Mm.
or just like your dad
Mm.
buying like so much of
Sometimes it's
things you like.
overwhelming when you think that like we're like somehow, I mean, maybe the most important people in their life,
Yeah.
apart from each other, and like
Or
they're,
even more.
yeah, and then like they like all of their time is consumed by worrying about you,
Yeah.
thinking about you,
Yeah.
helping you, and maybe like this is also where I feel guilt. That's what I was gonna say.
100%.
Like when you're away, like I think your life is so full by new people, by all
New
these experiences,
yeah.
that like you, like your parents are obviously really important, but like they're not the only thing filling your mind. But for them, we are the almost the only thing filling their mind. Depends on the parents, but in my case, like I feel like they're like a lot of their
Yeah.
time is consumed
Brain
by
energy.
thoughts of us. And I'm just like, this is also where I feel guilty, because I'm like, I don't have the same level of, thinking about them all the time as they do.
Yeah, that's true. I do think for sure it does depend on people's lifestyles and the parents, but I feel also it depends on the generation. I feel like you and I kind of like in this first generation to leave their parents' house for the first time and things like that. And I think guilt is a big part, the down part, I'd say, of moving out. And I feel like we all cope differently with that guilt, either by accepting that, you have to
Yeah.
live your life and that's the way to kind of like
Honestly, the fun
give
parts
back.
overweight the guilt.
Yeah,
Just
like,
telling you.
and it's also, it's also they've done it for
Yeah,
you and they've done it for
exactly.
you to live the life that you're living.
And they're always happy when you're enjoying your life. So
I,
just enjoy your life.
I think you should definitely enjoy your life, but we also kind of try to give back in different ways, and
definitely.
I think that's different for everyone. And let's just say that everyone copes differently, and maybe we like dig into some of these things in other episodes, because I know for sure that
this is a long discussion, and also it's cultural. Because,
it's definitely cultural, because not all
I think
of
people in the MENA region will relate to this like
More.
sense of having this type of relationship with your parents where they like fight for you and like you want to get back to them. Like maybe I didn't find this as present in
France, for example.
in like my Western friends. They just like, not all of them of course, but like there's this sense of, if my parents did all of this for me, it's because they decided to birth me and they had to do all this.
This is crazy.
And like, yes, I mean, they did birth me and I didn't have a choice in my birth, but still, I feel like now that I'm an adult, I can't imagine, oh my God, all my money going into someone else. Not yet, at least. I mean, when I have kids, of course, I'll change my mind. But for now, I'm like, wow, they did all this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I relate to that. No, but that's a really good point, because for sure, I think it's cultural, because, whether it comes from like the tradition and the culture or the religion, is that, we do value our parents a lot, and, we respect them so much. And it's very different in the Western, countries where people literally would just leave their parents' house at 18. It's like automatic, because their parents are like, I'm not going to care for you now, just go and live your life. And also the parents are prepared that their kids will leave at a certain point. So even the parents, they kind of grow up in this mindset that they have a life that's separate from their children. And so it's not hard
That's like
to have this separation.
That's so interesting. The whole like they have a life separate from their children. I think what we struggle with the most is that our parents, I feel like growing up, they did not have a life separate from us. Like,
and
the family
nor
structure
from their parents.
Yeah, the family structure is so strong that like you have to answer to your parents, to your kids, and it's just like you don't have a separate life from them. Like you don't go do things on your own. Like, what?
There's no such thing.
And I feel like that's why it makes it so weird and difficult even for the kids when they go away. Like I feel like I think what you said also about Western people already expecting their kids to go away, I think not really. I mean, I've seen like here in France, like most of the people I was going with at school, like they still lived with their parents and stuff. I think it's still common, but like the way they live with their parents is very different from ours. Like,
for sure.
It's like once you're a certain age, you don't have to answer to them even if you live with them.
Yeah.
But I think even if I was 19 at my parents' house, I still have to answer.
You could be 30. You're
exactly.
gonna answer to them.
My mom still answers to her mom. Like it's
Yeah.
it's like that's what I like. That's the difference. I think it's not about like I don't think like Western parents stop financially, like not all of them stop helping their kids.
No, for sure.
Or tell them
They
to
still
move
have
out. but
Yeah.
like they have this separation.
They
They
do.
have their like, you have your life, I have my life.
Yeah.
We don't have separate lives when we live in the family structure in Morocco.
No.
And I have to say, like, this was something I was very aware of even when I was a kid.
Yeah.
I really wanted to move away from that because I just saw how my mom was like still so impacted with like her brothers, her mom, like everybody needs to know everybody about everything about your life. I mean, to this day, honestly, when I call my mom and tell her something, I just know that like all my uncles and my grandma's gonna know it, and
Yep.
it's just like I didn't want that to be my life, even though it still is now because I'm talking to them so much.
Yeah.
But I didn't want that to be my life, and I needed to remove myself from that because I thought like I would never be fully free if that was my life. Like,
Yeah.
because they give opinions on everything. Like, I was just like thinking. I remember when I was a kid, I told my mom like everybody's gonna have an opinion on everything I do. Like what house I might buy one day, like what car I buy, who I'm gonna marry. Like everyone has opinions on everything, and I feel like when you live alone, you just like care about your own opinion. And I mean, I think people who live with their parents
Yeah.
can reach the point where they only care about their opinion, but
It's harder.
I think it's harder because you get to hear their opinions constantly.
But like
whereas here, like we don't have to hear their opinions constantly.
you don't have to hear opinions constantly, and also you select also what you want to share,
Yeah, yeah.
and that's also an advantage. But if you could tell me in like one word what your experience felt like moving out, like one word, like the best, like how you would like bottle your
One word.
experience alone.
Trust.
I love that.
Because we said like trust in ourselves, trusting that things are gonna go okay, and trusting people in your life. Yeah, so I think
Trust in the process.
yeah.
Yeah, I love it. So interesting. I didn't think of that.
What would you say? You said one word. It was I panicked.
I don't know. I didn't think about it. I'm the one who asks the questions.
I thought you already had a word in mind when you asked.
I didn't. But I don't know. Now that you said trust, I can get it out of my head. But I think maybe I would say for sure resilience. That's something that stuck with me because we're resilient to everything. Like we learn to be resilient to life in general once we move out of our parents' house. Like we're not shielded anymore. That's what makes it for me. Like parents are a shield, like in a safe space. And I feel like once you leave the safe space, you're confronted to life. Like that's where you start being confronted. Nobody's there to solve your problems. Nobody's there to get you the job. Nobody's there to hold your hand. Nobody's there to make you food. Nobody's there to do your groceries. Nobody's there to da 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 da. And I feel like
to doctor's
to take you to your doctor's appointment, to get you an appointment. Nobody's there to do your paperwork. Nobody's there to help you with homework. Nobody also is there to tell you wake up in the morning. Do you know how hard that is? Like just that. I know it's like so simple. If you sleep in, you lose your job. Like, you know. For me, I didn't move out to go abroad. I moved out to go to preparatory school. So this is so interesting. I should have mentioned it at the beginning because
like you stayed in Morocco
I
when you
literally moved out. I was in Tangier and I stayed in the same city as my parents the first year. I went to like boarding school, not really, but it was campus.
Yeah.
It was campus for a year. So I actually transitioned really slowly.
Okay,
I
that's
went,
good.
yeah, I went to campus. So it was in.
Okay, so that's why you were so mentally prepared to furnish fully your apartment. I'm sorry.
No, but like even my first year, I had a roommate. We should have like I don't know why.
Oh,
like,
we should talk about roommates.
We're
we
gonna
don't
do
have
that.
time.
We'll do that in another episode. There's like I think there's so many topics.
Yeah.
Like subtopics that we touched upon, but we kind of wanted to focus on this episode on like just the fact of like moving out, just the moving out part. And then like there's so many things that go around it, but like for me, I kind of transitioned from being in the same city. So I moved to, it was in Tanja. I moved to, from literally when I lived to like literally 15 minutes by car. And I actually didn't see my parents. I saw them only the weekends. So, which was kind of still interesting for me. And then I did 1 year there. Then I went to Casablanca. So I went to another city, and then I did 3 years there, and then I moved to France.
Yeah. Okay.
So, but it, like, I just wanted to mention that to tell you guys that moving out is not necessarily abroad, is not necessarily like a flight away. It could be a cab away or a walk away, and it still matters, you know? It's so...
And I just want to add to that, like, don't settle because you, for not moving out abroad because you're scared.
Yeah.
Because actually it's the same thing.
Yeah.
I see, like, I have some cousins who still live in Morocco, but they don't live in the same city as their parents. And they actually, like, see them as often as I see my parents because
100%.
they're so busy with their job and their work, and their weekends they want to see their friends who live in the same city as them, and then like they end up postponing visiting their parents, especially if it's like long hours away by car. So they just end up seeing them once a month or like once every 3 months sometimes, and then like maybe if they're too busy, it just ends up being longer and longer. And then at the end of the day, I see them just as much because I'm in another country. I plan these times that to go see them maybe more thoroughly than if I was still living in Morocco. Like if I was still living in Morocco, I'd be like, oh, if I'm not going this week, I can go next week. And you're just like, you end up losing so much time not seeing them because you think you're close, but actually when you're so wrapped up in your own life, it can be hard when you're close actually to see them.
Yeah.
Because it just feels like I can do it at any time. So never say, like, if you have, I mean, an opportunity abroad and you're just scared to go because of like, oh, I won't see my parent that often and all of that, like, don't settle for going to another city if it's not what you want. Like, if it's what you want, of course, do it. But like, I mean, you know, for people who had an opportunity to go abroad but were just scared because of how little they will see their parents, I think you will get used to it. And as I said before, sometimes it can even help your relationship.
Yeah.
And you will always like cherish the moment together. But yeah, this is from my perspective, of course. Maybe some people will say that like time you spend with your parents is precious. You don't have a lot of time and they don't want to like cut it short. But like you're not cutting it short. Like if you're still talking to them, if you're still they're still present in their in your life, like you don't need to physically touch them to like be close to them.
To give like hugs.
Yeah, of course. But I mean, like, you know, closeness.
Yeah, in spirit. And maybe let's just say that to wrap up the episode, moving out of parents' houses in 2023, you guys, it's so much easier than before. Not to compare, but I just want to say that I feel personally that it's so easy now because I never lost touch with my parents.
Exactly.
I still call them, we still FaceTime. The frequency depends on you, what you tell them depends on you, but you still can actually make time to call your parents and stay in touch with them. And I think that will reassure them. That's gonna make them feel like they can trust you more. The fact that you'd share things with them, take them around with you. Now we all have like mobile phones and we can literally just like FaceTime at any given moment in any situation. So you can take your parents with you. You can talk to them about things. So don't worry about that. The fact that you can communicate via internet is such a great thing. I think we can like talk for 2 hours, but thank you so much for being on my couch today.
Thank you.
For being on this episode. This was fun.
Yeah,
See?
it was.
Yeah.
When I stopped thinking that my voice was recorded, I actually enjoyed it.
But it was fun. I hope you guys had some good advice out of this, or at least that you got like some insights onto what goes around once you move out of your parents' house. And of course, I know with Lina, there's so much more to what we just said, and there's so much depth and stories that we can tell you about. But do ask us if you have any further questions.
Yeah.
Maybe we can like answer them in some other episodes, or if maybe we can do one that's like dedicated to France.
And also, like, maybe if we do another episode, I want to talk about maybe if you felt like your home was toxic and it was gonna help you move
Yeah,
out, because I feel like we've been overwhelmingly positive and we didn't touch on that.
for sure.
And yeah, sometimes when you move out, like, you realize how toxic certain, like, your home was. And yeah, it can help you a lot. So just encouraging people out there who feel like they would have a better mental health if they move out, to start thinking about it,
Yeah.
to start like looking for ways to save, to have other opportunities. So yeah,
Yeah.
good luck to everyone who wants
That's
to
true.
move.
No, I mean, that is true. And I kind of think that it does come back to what we said earlier, which is your relationship sometimes with your parents is better when you move out. Like you get closer, you have a better relationship, like healthier relationship. And for sure, I feel like with Lina, we can like talked about our kind of view of things, which was okay. Like, you know what I mean? Like we come from like, you know, an okay mental health, maybe just like a little. But we for sure did not move a little. We did not move for that reason. I think that's why we emphasized on it. We actually went out automatically for school. So that's why, we did not really go into other reasons, but I'm 1,000% sure, like 2,000% sure, that a lot of people would move out of their parents' house for mental health reasons, because you are in an environment that's not okay, or you're in an abusive household. Like we have to touch base on that. I'm pretty sure there's more stories that we know of. So please share with us your story if you do have one. And also if you have any questions, we can answer them. Please follow up the conversation with us on social media at NouTalks on Instagram. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.
Perfect.